Are you kidding me? All 10 Penn State wrestlers get into the quarterfinals. No, I'm not kidding. This is not surprising at all. It is simply par for the course for this Penn State wrestling team.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to Penn State Wrestling, and thank you so much for joining another live edition of Locked On Nittany Lions, the #1 daily Penn State sports podcast out there. My name is Zach Seyko. I am your host of the show. We are recapping day one, session 2, as Penn State goes 20-0, 10 for 10 into the quarterfinals. Plenty of intriguing matchups tomorrow. That's when it really gets serious, is those quarterfinal matchups where Penn State's not going to necessarily be a favorite in every single bout. So we're going to go through all of it. Plus, we're going to talk about Masanosuke Ono being enrolled at Penn State. Got a little update to share with everyone. We'll talk about that towards the end of the show, but we got to talk about the NCAA tournament, the present first, as opposed to the future. Penn State getting all 10 wrestlers into the quarterfinals. And as always, the live chat is open. We will be checking in and having a conversation between you and I throughout the show as well. But there's plenty to discuss here. There's certainly not going to be a shortage of content and analysis. Luke Lillidahl, Braden Davis, Bo Bartlett, Shane Van Ness, Tyler Kasak, Mitchell Messenbrink, Levi Haynes, Carter Starachi, Josh Barr, Greg Kirkfleet, all into the quarterfinal matchups. And it started off with Luke Lillidahl, having a fairly slow start, but then really amping it up against Blake West of Northern Illinois, getting a tech fall. And that's why the team race standings, all these bonus points that are being racked up in the process, Luke Lillidahl is a huge part of this because of what he's able to do, to go out there and rack up bonus points, to score offensively at will. It's guys like Luke Lillidahl who are now part of the lineup that was so strong a season ago, that broke the scoring record just last year, but now you add on the extra bonus points here that will make that team score very much in a place to go and get that once again, aside from how many wrestlers that we expect for Penn State to get into the finals, get onto the podium. All 10, it looks like all 10, it's shaping up that way. Now, I won't get ahead of myself, right? It's certainly not going to be easy tomorrow. 133, Braden Davis gets another impressive win. That's a number 9 seed in Braxton Brown. There's not much that separates Braden Davis and Braxton Brown in Maryland. 5-3 decision. That's important because we saw Davis at Big Tens lose to both Nick Bazakis and Dylan Shaver, respectively, after he defeated both of them in the regular season. So it's that follow-up match. It's that rematch that really trips Davis up. And he wins back-to-back bouts against Braxton Brown, who I don't think is far behind Braden Davis. Bo Bartlett, close victory, needed a Granby roll too. It's classic Bo Bartlett. That's what it was. It was classic Bo Bartlett. Didn't really force any action. He's more of a passive wrestler. I think we just have to accept that's who Bo Bartlett is. He's selective with his shot attempts, and he's going to win the way that Bo Bartlett does. So he defeats Julian Tagg of South Dakota State 4-1. No bonus points there, but Luke Lillidahl picking up 1.5. Just, hey, it's about surviving and advancing, right, at this point in time. Shane Van Ness does get a bonus point against Andrew Clark of Rutgers, winning by major decision, 11-1. Tyler Kasak surprisingly didn't get a bonus point, but there were some issues with the headgear. Cody Chittum of Iowa State actually gave him a little bit of a fight. I don't think Tyler Kasak looked as energized in this one. I'm not going to complain. It's an 8-3 decisive victory, but at the end of the day, a little bit surprising with just not the same type of domination that Tyler Kasak has had really recently. But I shouldn't complain because everybody at this point is by no means a pushover. At 165, Mitchell Messenbrink, tech falling, Kyle Mosher of Hofstra. Messenbrink got caught in a bad position at one point in time, but was able to flip over to his stomach. I don't ever think I've seen that from Messenbrink since the Dean Hamady match at the Big Ten semifinals a year ago. Or that was the Big Ten finals from last year. That was something. Messenbrink normally doesn't get caught like that, but has the awareness enough to just say, "Hey, all right, we'll live to fight another few seconds," and then he gets they get right up, and then he gets another takedown. Levi Haynes, Gavin Sachs, interesting towards the end. I don't know if anybody else noticed this, but Gavin Sachs was really doing a lot of hand swiping and trying to just latch on some collar ties to Haynes. I don't know what that was all about. Haynes gets a 4-0 decision, advances on to the quarterfinals. Carter Starace, that is a man on a mission. That is a man on a mission. Able to get a tech fall. It was 11-0 after the first period against Shane Cartagena-Walsh. Very familiar with Cartagena-Walsh of Rutgers, and Starace has never been tripped up by him before. So par for the course, as I've said already, but that's the same thing here. Nothing, you shouldn't expect anything less from Starace at this point. Then 197. If anybody had any sort of, their heart stopped or anybody got really nervous with that Josh Barr match, it's because Trey Munoz is better than advertised. Do not think of him as a 13 seed. Think of him as a 4-time All-American. Yes, he is a 5th year. He's a super senior. 4-time All-American, probably going to be a 5-time All-American here. Finished at 3rd place behind Parker Kekaisen and Dustin Plott at 184 a season ago. That is the caliber of wrestler of Trey Munoz. So he's a super senior. He's in his 5th year, and Josh Barr takes him out in sudden victory. Why he's the 13 seed? He's been dealing with injuries throughout the season. He's been dealing with bumps and bruises. I think he was 9-3 overall entering this NCAA tournament, but do not look at Trey Munoz, if you're not familiar with his game, as this average. Okay, so he's a strong wrestler. He's a veteran, but Josh Barr should be able to handle the 13 seed, right? No. I was a little bit on the edge of my seat with this one. I talked about it in the previous live recap, saying that Munoz is no pushover. I do genuinely mean that. It would not shock me if Barr does not come out on top, especially since we don't know how healthy he is. But health aside, Barr was just able to push through. Honestly, if I'm Barr, you try to get to sudden victory. You try to go to tiebreaker, because these wrestlers just can't match your stamina, your endurance. So even if you're not 100%, something that Barr always has to fall back on is that he's just always more energized than his opponent. Maybe that's debatable with Stephen Buchanan and Jacob Cardenas. Who knows about age? I'd argue that Barr still has more energy than them, because he went to tiebreaker with Cardenas and defeated him. Barr really can go to the wire. He can outlast just anybody to the finish line, but it is that experience. But it pays off here. Barr, who is certainly inexperienced compared to Trey Munoz, finds a way to get that sudden victory, 5-2. That is massive. He's got a rematch with Michael Barr, who looks energized. You want to talk? He defeated Stephen Little of Arkansas Little Rock, and Stephen Little is going to be an All-American at 197. So Michael Beard versus Josh Barr, former Penn State wrestler versus current Penn State wrestler. That is going to be exciting, to say the least, going into the quarterfinal. And then wrapping up our summary here with Greg Kirkfleet defeating Gavin Hoffman of Lock Haven 4-0. If you've been listening to the ESPN Plus MacCast, because since I've interviewed Trent Hidley in the past, I've had conversations with him. Hey, he's getting into the media sphere, so welcome, Trent. So I've been eager to listen to him, because I like Shane Sparks. He's from the Big Ten Network, and I really like what Trent Hidley has to offer, and being a former wrestler, and the understanding, and he's able to describe it in real time so fluently, efficiently, so that anybody that's a novice with wrestling or an expert can understand. And they pointed out how Greg, maybe is working on, on his top game. And it's surprising that for someone as dominant as Kirkfleet has been over his time, that, hey, a 4-0 decision, is that concerning? I do want to point out that Kirkfleet did sustain a reported injury at practice this past week. I don't know that he's 100%. So everybody's focused on Josh Barr and how he's doing, how he's feeling. Kirkfleet's wearing a leg brace as well, and he might not be 100%, but he's still, just find a way to win. Just find a way to win. You're not 100%. All those hours that you put into training, all those practice hours when you feel like trash, that's where this pays off. When you are absolutely out of energy, but you find a way to finish your practice session, I think that's where a lot of Penn State wrestlers, they're just able to outlast and find a way to win in those crucial situations. So nothing surprising here. Oh, Penn State's a dynasty. Penn State's 20-0. They picked up so many bonus points. They're way ahead in the team standings. Over here, we know. We know it's what we expected all along. As of 10:35, Penn State is leading with 38.5 points. Let's see if the team standings did update. Yes, so a final team standings update. The official scores, Penn State is in first place with 39.5 points. 39.5 points. Second place is Nebraska with 28. They have jumped. It's going to be close here early on. Where it's going to separate is over tomorrow. Oklahoma State's in third with 27. Iowa's in fourth with 18. Minnesota and Ohio State are also tied at fourth with 18. Cornell is 16.5. Illinois 16.5. Michigan 16.5 at seventh. And Northern Iowa has 15.5. So it was quite the day for Penn State wrestling, but this is, I think, what everybody over on this side of things certainly anticipated. All 10 wrestlers getting to the quarterfinals. Now it gets really interesting. It's not so, there's not going to be as much confidence. It's not going to be as simple to project. Things get serious tomorrow for day 2, if they haven't been already. But Penn State wrestling certainly is going to have its work cut out for them. So we're going to talk about some of those matchups. But first, check in on the live chat since all of you have joined and have been patient. We're going to talk about all that and more and get your thoughts coming up next here on this live Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you can start building wealth. Now, I've used Monarch Money, actually. You get surprising insights. That's one of the things that I've found because I realized where my money was going, whether that was, package deliveries or eating out, anything like that. And now I can budget smarter and save more. It's the all-in-one convenience of Monarch Money. Instead of juggling multiple different apps, you can use Monarch Money to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan long-term goals, and you'll have easy collaborations. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all of the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's right, 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for half off your first year. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Imagine watching your favorite team play live, feeling the energy of the crowd, and witnessing unforgettable moments. There's nothing like experiencing a big game or a big event in person. Getting tickets to those events should not be stressful. That's where Game Time comes in, making it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at unbeatable prices. They have a feature called Game Time Picks that will actually curate the best deals for you so that you can find better value than ever before for tickets on more than just sports, concerts, comedy, theater, you name it. You have easy ticket shopping options. If you check the Game Time app, there's always amazing deals on some huge matchups coming up, whether it's the college basketball tournament or college wrestling tournament. You'll have super deals with the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And in the end, you get peace of mind. With seat views before you buy, no surprising fees, and the lowest price guaranteed, you can book with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And thank you for joining the live show. Thank you for being patient in the live chat. And we'll bring you into the conversation. Barr looks like he can push off the knee. He seems okay. Great job, guys. 10 for 10. So it was debatable early on. Officially, I think we can all fit now that we've seen it, right? It was a leg injury at first. And then there was the skepticism. Is it a knee? Is it because he was just helped off the mat? But ultimately, it is a hamstring. He does look like he's wearing a muscle sleeve on his left hamstring. I don't think there's any issues. With the knee. Penn State wrestling fans should be absolutely, ecstatic with these results. Penn State is rolling, but it would have been nice to see Lock Haven have a little bit of a better showing. It's difficult. You have the best of the best at these tournaments across all schools, and you'll get some of those surprising contenders where it's one or two competitors from a given school. I think of Rider University. I think they have a couple wrestlers that are just surprisingly continue to advance their way, but it's the best of the best everywhere. And a lot of different schools that, I'm hyper focused on Penn State, of course, but primarily the Big Ten. Then you factor in the Big 12, you factor in the EIWA, right? All these conferences that you're not necessarily getting to keep as many tabs on. And some of these wrestlers do sneak up on you. So Lock Haven, you'd like to, obviously, the local schools. If you have some local interest, I've been rooting for, I'll give an example, Jude Swisher. He's from Center County. He's from the State College, Bellefonte area. That's somebody that I've been kind of silently rooting for. He ended up getting pinned. So not exactly the best session for him, but totally understand your comment. So happy to see all 10 wrestlers advance into the quarterfinals. I have to say, this team is made for breaking records, and we've talked about it every step of the way. Summer, off season, leading up to the beginning of the season with the official preview, and then now in the moment. They are poised to break records. They have 9 title contenders. Now, granted, whether or not they win at the end of the day is still up for debate, but they have 9 NCAA finals contenders. Braden Davis is the lone exception, but he's not a liability. He can easily finish on the podium. He's got a test tomorrow against Lucas Bird. We're going to talk about it. Great to see Davis win and against tough competition. Braxton Brown could have easily came back and won. Davis was able to fend him off. Always great work. We are 10 strong. How many are we getting to the semis? Well, great question, because we are going to discuss it even further. Also going to talk, so I have an update to share with everybody about Ono. I think people can see this. People who are going to listen to it back. I have a bullet point that says Ono not joining the team, ? We're going to discuss it in the final segment. Yeah, Greg Kirkfleet just simply said, "I'm just going to win the riding time battle," and I think his competitor gave up. His opponent essentially gave up at that point in time. Davis has Bird in the next round. I will say Bird looks unstoppable. Yeah. Lucas Bird was my choice to win at 133 over Drake Ayala. Yep, there it is. Yep, Bird is my pick to win it all, so we agree. I just want Davis to be an All-American, really want to see 10. And it's starting to look likely. That's where this conversation's going. It's not speculation. It's not, cautious optimism. It looks likely. So let's start I'll pick back up with the live chat. Don't get me wrong. So please keep contributing your comments and your thoughts. But let's start to go through some of these matchups for tomorrow, starting with 125. And I want to make sure that I get these right. So there we go. All right. So I have them pulled up. So Luke Lillidahl gets a rematch with Sheldon Seymour of Lehigh. Sheldon Seymour looked great against Caleb Smith, but Luke Lillidahl is not the same wrestler. Some people might point back to their first match, as you should. They faced each other the first time around. So Luke Lillidahl gets some experience, gets to, what kind of opponent Sheldon Seymour is. Same thing. Sheldon Seymour, hey, you've now wrestled. You know what Luke Lillidahl is like. But that was the very green, true freshman, first-year starter version of Luke Lillidahl, where he kind of seemed tentative. I've almost seen, it's almost been like night and day for Luke Lillidahl, where he's starting to look like the lightning Luke Lillidahl, has his alternate ego here, where he's just going to rattle off, kind of like Mitchell Messenbrink, shot after shot after shot, lightning strike, right? To, continue with the puns after lightning strike here. So Sheldon Seymour impressed me against Caleb Smith, but I still like Lillidahl's chances here. He won 4-1 with a late takedown the first time around. And Lillidahl and Seymour are certainly going to be very selective early on, because it is a winner-take-all situation. You make a mistake, you get caught. There's really no coming back from it at this point. So that quarterfinal is going to get things started. But Lillidahl is not the same wrestler, and he defeated Seymour when he was still getting adjusted to things here with Penn State at the college level. Lucas Bird is taking on Braden Davis. The last time that they met, it was a 7-1 decision, if I'm not mistaken. That was when Davis was coming off of, right? He was in and out of the lineup with bumps and bruises. This is the strongest version of Braden Davis. Do I think Davis ultimately upsets Bird? Is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? No. But I think the result can be closer. I don't think it's going to be as decisive. I don't know that Bird's necessarily going to be in control from start to finish early on. I think it's going to be close, and then Bird pulls away because he's the veteran. He's more experienced. He is the better overall wrestler. What concerns me about Davis is just at some points in time, he's just so easy to throw. He's very easy to throw. Since obviously I just have an informational background about wrestling, I'm not afraid to admit that I've never actually wrestled myself, but Davis does not have heavy hips. When a wrestler gets in on a single leg or a double leg, Davis really relies on the upper body. Really relies on the upper body to counter, and at some point, it has gotten him in some dire situations. Against Bird, that's going to be the case if you're not careful. So Davis is really going to have to be on his A game and try to throw something at Lucas Bird that maybe he's not expecting. Bo Bartlett is not getting the match that I expected, and I have some strong thoughts about that Tegan Jamison bout. Tegan Jamison of Oklahoma State, I think that David Taylor did not do him any favors. He went to scramble against his opponent. Unfortunately, I don't actually remember off the top of my head who he lost to, but he lost to his opponent in CJ Composto. So CJ Composto of Penn, pardon me, everyone. So he ended up losing to Composto of Pennsylvania, and it was a last-second takedown. And it looked like Jamison had been able to circle around, and either it was a reversal, he would have tied it, or he would have taken the lead. And why didn't you throw a brick? Why didn't you challenge that? So Taylor did not do his wrestler any favors there. CJ Composto is no slouch. Expect another barn burner with Bo Bartlett and Composto tomorrow. Composto is a veteran. He's a former All-American. He certainly doesn't have the pedigree that Bartlett carries, and Bartlett should be expected to win and face Jesse Mendez in the semifinal. I still think it's going to go down to the wire. If it's a sudden victory type of deal, or if it's a 4-1, 4-2, it's just what we should expect from Bo Bartlett. It's his comfort zone. It is what's working. Bartlett only has one loss on the season to Vance Vombauer. So we really shouldn't be all that critical of Bartlett. He just finds ways to win, and it's worked against Jesse Mendez as well. Don't fix it if it's not broken there. 149, and then we'll go to break and return with what each wrestler what's ahead for each wrestler for tomorrow. Shane Van Ness is going up against Lachlan McNeil. McNeil's a veteran. McNeil was an All-American last year at 149. High quality wrestler. This is one that I have circled that Van Ness because of that match against Cannon Webster. Nothing is a given. Nothing is a sure thing. So Van Ness is a title contender in his own right. But Lachlan McNeil, if he is feeling it, can absolutely upset Van Ness if he's not careful. So that one against Cannon Webster should be a wake-up call for Van Ness going into this one against Lachlan McNeil of North Carolina. So this is one that's very even matched, and the veteran experience is going to go to McNeil based on obviously how long he's been in college wrestling. So we'll pick back up with 157, work our way up to heavyweight, and talk about Ono's plans for Penn State. What's going to happen with him actually enrolled at the university? We'll talk about that and more coming up next here on this live edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's show is also brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Daylight savings snuck up on us again, and if you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5 Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late to watch the NCAA tournament, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5 Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. It's all here, the basketball madness. If you're going to be staying up late to watch some of these tournament games, and 5 Hour Energy will help you keep up with the next day. Extra daylight means extra activities with longer days. If you like getting outside, whether that's to go for a run or anything else, and just enjoying the outdoors, you will get a quick boost from the 5 Hour Energy drink. And it's the on-the-go convenience. So whether you're at a sporting event, whether you're traveling, whether you're at work, 5 Hour Energy is easy to grab and go, and it keeps you feeling refreshed. Head over to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, peach mango, and tropical burst. You can even build your own 12 or 24 pack, customize it for yourself, and you'll have it delivered right to your door. Do you need one now? Grab a 5 Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere, literally. Stock up today and stay energized with 5 Hour Energy.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
And welcome back to the live show. Thank you for joining me here late on a Thursday night. It's a work night for most people out there. I hope everyone's enjoying the March Madness as well, in addition to the March Madness. Okay, so let's pick back up with Tyler Kasak. Tyler Kasak, like I said, just walking away from the matchup against Cody Chittum. It wasn't an overly dominant victory, but like I said, there's not much that separates wrestlers at this point in time. He's going up against Joey Blaze of Purdue, the 8th seed. Joey Blaze is the, yes, you guessed it, older brother of Marcus Blaze, top recruit in the class of 2025, committed to Penn State. And that was a big point in his recruiting. Where was Marcus Blaze, the younger brother, going to go? Was he going to follow Joey at Purdue? Was he going to stay in the state of Ohio and commit to Ohio State? So I'm intrigued to know who is. I imagine that Marcus is rooting for his older brother Joey, but it is a conflict of interest tomorrow with Tyler Kasak being a pending teammate, and he could be right in the starting lineup with him in a year's time. We're not going to know right away. 141 is going to be open, and Marcus Blaze, if metaphorically speaking, as a puzzle piece, would fit right in to take over for Bo Bartlett, since he's right around that weight class. But he moved up to 150 for the high school tournament. He was wrestling in the 130s. So Blaze is dynamic. I think he could fit right in at 141 next season. Marcus, that is. For Kasak, I think he defeats Joey Blaze here. Blaze, of course, is the veteran, but veteran experience only goes so much along. It goes only so far. For Kasak, he has just been dominant. He has hit a new gear. I think what really separates him, I've always pointed to his strength, but now you couple that with his reaction time, his ability to just think in the moment. It's not reactive, it's proactive, and that's what makes Kasak the number 1 seed. And if he's not your favorite at 157, he should be. Same thing with Mitchell Messenbrink. If he's not your favorite at 165, I don't know what weight class you've been watching all season. He will take on Cam Amin of Oklahoma State. And that was one of the early matchups from a season ago, I remember, when not everybody was buying into the Mitchell Messenbrink hype. It was progressive, and eventually people got onto the train before he met David Taylor in that NCAA championship. But Cam Amin was one of those first matches when Amin was at Michigan, and ultimately Messenbrink was able to upset him. But we knew that for people that knew how good Mitchell Messenbrink was at the time, you knew that wasn't an upset. So he will face Amin tomorrow in a rematch. Oklahoma State now. Let's see what pointers David Taylor can pass on here. I still think Amin won't be able to keep up. Amin is not an offensive wrestler. He's more of a defensive-oriented wrestler, and this matchup is just not for him. Messenbrink should be able to potentially tech fall him here, at a minimum, major decision. Levi Haynes is going up against Danny Wask. I hope I'm saying that right. Maybe it's Wask. Danny Wask. I didn't hear the name pronunciation today during the broadcast, of Navy. And Haynes, so this is the number 7 seed here. Quality wrestler, but not a veteran by any means. So Haynes actually has not only the talent, the strength, the speed, but the experience over his counterpart from Navy. I'm expecting a solid, decisive victory. Maybe it teeters into a major decision for Haynes. He should have no problems advancing into the semifinal, where he will most likely meet Dean Hamity. Carter Starachi's going up against Jackson Smith. Jackson Smith has showed out at this tournament. I really like what I've seen in that Mac cast when Jackson Smith goes up to wrestle. But this is one where Starachi is just much better. This is a familiar opponent. But now we're starting to get into the territory where these wrestlers are going to do anything by any means necessary to try to upset Starachi. You are now getting guys that are capable of at least offering some resistance. Not the first 2 wrestlers that Starachi's seen between Rogers of Lehigh and Cartagena Walsh of Rutgers. It's Jackson Smith, who now, he's got some moves of his own. I'm not saying, hey, look for Smith to upset, but look for Smith to try maybe some funky moves that normally wouldn't be a part of his game. Josh Barr gets a rematch against Michael Beard at 197 in the quarterfinal. Michael Beard of Lehigh, and Remember, this is the former Penn State wrestler. This is going to be somewhat personal for Beard since it didn't ultimately work out at Penn State. Barr defeated him the first time by major decision. It was all Barr in that third period and beyond for anybody that remembers. You could expect something similar. I think this margin will be a lot closer. I think Beard has learned his lesson from just watching him passively at NCAA so far. He does seem to be somewhat of a different wrestler. He does seem to be a little bit further ahead now. This is going to be a tougher matchup for Barr. I expect him to advance, though. Greg Kirkfleet is going to go up against a familiar foe in Josh Heinzelman of Michigan. I think at this point they've met 3 times this season, but they met in the regular season and Kirkfleet won decisively. No differences here. I imagine that we will get something probably along the line. Heinzelman is a really good defensive wrestler, so if this is another low-scoring bout where it's 4-0 or 5-1, maybe Heinzelman gets an escape, but Kirkfleet is just so good on top. If he shuts him out, that's probably what's most likely going to happen. Something along the lines of 4-0, 5. Kirkfleet gets a takedown or 2 and just racks up 3 to 4 minutes of riding time, most likely. I think that's what Kirkfleet just needs to survive and advance, especially if he's not 100%. I promised to talk about Ono, and we're getting towards the end of our show here. I do want to go back to the live chat, but I do want to share an update about Masanosuke Ono. And Ono is enrolled at Penn State. For what it's worth, he is enrolled at Penn State. And initially the reaction is, okay, well, if he's a student, he's joining the Penn State wrestling team. Well, you ask around, and that's my job here. I'm supposed to find the answers to the questions that everybody has. And for Ono, at least for the time being, it doesn't look like he's going to be part of the lineup next season. So at least that's what it seems. Ono is there. He's going to be enrolled as a student. He's going to compete and train with the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club. But I can't say, at least right now, that he's going to be in the starting lineup for 2 reasons. One, the purpose for him being there at Penn State is to train for him to get better. It's also a benefit for the lightweights. You just have another positive influence. You have the best of the best. You have a world champion there with all the potential to further his wrestling career. And he's in your wrestling room. He's training with your wrestlers on the team and anybody else that's in the mat room. So for Ono to have some influence on Luke Lillidahl, Braden Davis, Marcus Blaze, Dalton Perry, that is massive. That is massive. So even if he's not, you would like him in the starting wrestling lineup, right? You would want him to be in the starting lineup because he would be a 4-time champ if he had 4 years of eligibility. But at least right now, from what I'm hearing, that is not the plan. The plan is to have him a part of the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, train there as often as possible. Now, he is enrolled, which still piques my interest. This still has me pretty intrigued because what's the point of enrolling as a student? You train there, you trained in the mat room, you worked out with the wrestlers to train for that Spencer Lee match. You weren't a student then. Now, I get it, enrollment was different, right? That wasn't a time where he could enroll as a student, and they had to work something out. But why do it anyway? So it still has me thinking, okay, is this an option down the road? What makes this so complicated is that the NCAA does have rules and regulations around this. So this might be actually an eligibility issue where he can't make the lineup in his first season as a student at Penn State. And maybe down the road, it's far out, but instead of 25 and 26, 26 and 27, maybe they do work Ono into the starting lineup. So that's my conspiracy theory here, is that Penn State might be playing the long game. I just find it very interesting that they enrolled him as a student, but nevertheless, he is going to be there for the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club primarily. Maybe they explore options to get him to wrestle folk style and be a part of the collegiate team. So that is what I am hearing. Wanted to pass it along to you because that was something that, kind of was debatable. Where would he go? 125, 133. Who would he push out? Braden Davis is what 133. That's not a concern here going into 25, 26 at the moment. Let me pick back up in the live chat. Promise to get back to the comments as well. I see some Iowa comments, some of the Iowa comments in here that, they're still in fourth. They're still in fourth. And I do feel bad for Kyle Parko. Ja'Cory Teamer's been banged up as well, but because of the rumored NIL offers, I know that not a lot of people are going to hand out sympathy and empathy to them. But Iowa is just, Gabe Arnold, I think he was pinned or he lost by a ton to Chris Foca of Cornell. That was not a close matchup whatsoever. So there is probably going to be some sort of mass exodus or overhaul for Iowa next season. And they really should consider changing coaches. They really should, because they went all in on this season. They sold out on the future. There were plenty of wrestlers that maybe weren't good today, but they could have been great down the line. They were just going to have some growing pains. And you pushed them all out. Seabreck, Glazier, and you bring in Kyle Parko. You bring Ja'Cory Teemer in at a premium. You bring in Stephen Buchanan, and all for what? To not even finish second? You compromise the future to not even finish second? I don't know. People start to point it out that Teemer doesn't look the same. Kyle Parko doesn't look the same. That's that Iowa influence. So Iowa's certainly going to have to go back to the table and figure it out. What separates Penn State from the rest? Character. That's the Penn State way. That's certainly something. That's what Cale Sanderson has built a foundation on, and that's why you don't have to worry about, hey, is he happy with his NIL deal? Because they're there to compete. They're there to train. They're there to be the best version of themselves as wrestlers. They are not there, well, how can I maximize my marketability? How can I do this? If you want to do that in your free time, by all means, do it in your free time. But everybody at Penn State is pushing for the same objective. They're all rowing the boat forward together. They're not a bunch of individuals. They're a team. They're a collection of individuals that are working towards the same goal. 20 for 20. Absolutely. Does Iowa go after Schwab, Northern Iowa's head coach? I don't see why not. You have to have an uncomfortable conversation with Brands. Now, Brands did get Bo Bassett to commit, and they're going to get more top tier prospects. So Brands has built somewhat of a relationship. Or is that Bassett's relationship with the Brands brothers? Or is that his relationship with Spencer Lee because of the Young Guns connection? So maybe Iowa can afford to let go of Brands and start. Ben Askren is a rumored candidate. Kyle Dake. I would not like to see Kyle Dake to go to Iowa. Maybe he's holding out for Cornell. Oh, that's a lot of speculation. The Brands brothers have failed Iowa. It's clear. Yeah. Barr is fine. Munoz is tough. 2-time All-American senior. Multiple than that. I think he's a 4-time. 4-time, and he placed third a season ago at 184. Oh man. ESPN's coverage was terrible. Didn't show 1 second of mess and brink. It depends what stream you were watching. So I'm watching the full Mattcast with all 8 up on the screen. I very much enjoy that. I like listening to Shane Sparks and Trent Hidley. I think they have a good back and forth. I really like listening to Hidley and talking about his time since he's done it so recently, and he wrestled against Aaron Brooks, right? So just kind of that. And again, I'm partially biased. I've had conversations with him. I've covered the same area, the same schools that he's from when I was covering high school wrestling a little more actively for the radio. So there's definitely that connection. But I like the way that Trent Hidley and Shane Sparks have called it together. See that we have some other comments catching up with what I've said earlier. See, stop complaining and get ESPN Plus and watch any match that you want. ESPN's been so hit or miss over the course of it in terms of the coverage. I like what they've done with the Mattcast, but the score bugs and the streams going out at portions of times. You've had a year to prepare for this. I don't want to be too overly critical, right? But they've certainly had time to prepare for this. Also, Penn State is losing 2 to the portal. Yes, that I was going to have an update on that. I was going to share it for a separate episode, actually. But Alex Facundo and Gary Steen are entering the transfer portal. Just to kind of throw 2 cents out there. Gary Steen has 1 more year of eligibility. He deserves to kind of go and start like a Terrell Barraclaw. Alex Facundo, he doesn't have a path. Tyler Kasak, Mitchell Messenbrink, 157, 165. He doesn't have a path to start. 174, that's too much of a weight gain. So for Facundo, there just isn't anything there. Yes, so we're all caught up. Yeah, Ono isn't going to be wrestling for Penn State. He's going to be a member of the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club and train and have a monumental impact on guys that will be. Lilladall, Davis, Blaze, Perry, the lightweights. Just think of the influence overall. You get that. You add that kind of caliber wrestler to the RTC program. That's a win in its own right. I'm out of breath. Thank you so much for joining a live edition of Locked On Nittany Lions here late on a Thursday. Really, I appreciate that. Appreciate all of you from the bottom of my heart for watching, for contributing your thoughts in the live chat, and being a part of this conversation. We're going to do this after every session, every single session. So session 3 tomorrow, session 4, and of course on Saturday, with everything consolations and the finals as well. So stay tuned. If you're not already, become an everydayer. Subscribe to Locked On Nittany Lions on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts so that you do not miss any new episodes, any of these live episodes to recap Penn State wrestling and preview what's to come. More action on the way tomorrow. All 10. It's going to be busy because all 10 Penn State wrestlers are into the quarterfinals, and be a part of these follow-up conversations here about your favorite Penn State sports teams. Of course, Penn State wrestling here on Locked On Nittany Lions.